What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my team selection for Game Week 6. So we're going to go through general thoughts, transfer plans, captaincy, and all that good stuff, as well as a quick look at how we did in Game Week 5. Just before we jump into that, I wanted to talk about the fact you can become a Let's Talk FPL member on YouTube if you haven't done so already. I don't plug this a lot, but I wanted to talk about it in this video. If you want to check it out, there is a link in the description below, or you can click that join button that you see on my main channel page, very well indicated with that lovely red arrow. And if you do sign up, there's a couple of different tiers. So the base tier, which is just the general member, you get loyalty badges next to your name. You might have seen some people with those in the live stream chat already, and in the comment section you get that too. There's custom emojis and just general support of the channel. If you go one step up, it's the Let's Talk FPL Pro, so you get all the same stuff as the previous tier, plus Discord access and members live stream every single game week. So I'll be doing that later on this afternoon, probably around 1 or 2 o'clock UK time, and it's just for members only. And then the Legend tier is exactly the same as the Pro tier. It's just for those crazy people that want to pay a bit extra. So if you want to check that out, there's a link in the description below, or just click that join button that you see on my channel, and that should let you sign up if you want to. Otherwise, let's get into the team selection. So Game Week 5 was a lot of fun. My mentions on Twitter on Wednesday evening, when Haaland was banging in goals left, right and centre, honestly, some of the replies, not all of them, it was like I'd made the biggest mistake in the history of FPL by not going for Haaland, season over, all that kind of stuff. And in reality, I got 80 points and another green arrow, and the season's going really well. Of course, if I'd gone for Haaland captain over Salah, I'd be 7 points better off. The green arrow would be even bigger. But these things happen. I'm not really too disappointed by it. I'm happy that I still got the 80 points, and I'm not too far behind those that did captain Haaland. With Salah, I know some people will say it's a little bit fortunate to have got that second assist off his shoulder in the 98th minute. But one of the reasons I captained him is because I felt like he would be on the pitch for the majority of the game, if not all of it. So I'm kind of happy with that call. I'll come on to captaincy in a second. Elsewhere, the double Man City clean sheet came in. Very happy that I kept Cancelo, because I was slightly considering selling him. I didn't really want to do it against Nottingham Forest though, because it was such a good fixture. So he got his goal. And then Martinelli and Jesus for Arsenal attackers did well for me too. I think if Salah was a bit fortunate, I feel like Gabriel, the Arsenal defender, and Arsenal defence owners in general have been a little bit unfortunate the last couple of games. If you look at their expected goals conceded numbers for the season, I think they're second best only to Man City, which is, you know, usual case. Man City are usually the best defence in the league. This week he loses the clean sheet to Villa from a corner. How often does that happen? Not very often at all. And okay, against Fulham he gets his goal, so I can't complain too much, but it was only one mistake that let Fulham in. If he cleared that ball, Mitrovic doesn't get in, Arsenal keep another clean sheet. So I think Arsenal defence was a good decision. I think the outcomes have maybe been a little bit lower than we would have expected. The two things I want to talk about with Game Week 5 before we move on to 6 is, one, the captaincy decision. Was it a mistake? I think I did say last week I did expect Haaland to start, but I wasn't 100% sure, whereas I knew Salah would, and I knew he'd be on the pitch for a long time. In hindsight now, that looks like a mistake, and a lot of you will have, you know, it's not hindsight, you would have said originally that Haaland was a better captain. That's fair enough, but I don't think it was a completely awful decision. How many times in the future I'll go against Haaland against a newly promoted side at home? Probably not very often, but I don't think it was a huge mistake to go for Salah. Obviously, in hindsight, it was, but I think Salah being on the pitch for like 90 plus minutes, that's going to be a good call. And we've got the same thing to decide for next week. So I'll talk about Game Week 6 in a minute. The other mistake that people have got onto me for is selling Reece James. Now, I personally, and obviously Dunk got -1, he was on my bench anyway, so it didn't really matter. I could have held Reece James and just played Andreas Pereira. I'd be another 6 points better off. So if I'd gone for Pereira and Haaland, I'd be 13 points better off. But every week there's going to be decisions you don't get right. I don't necessarily think it was a mistake selling Reece James, but I think it might have been a mistake selling Reed to Gross as well. Now, obviously, there's some hindsight in that. If Gross had gone and got a 10-pointer, I probably wouldn't be saying this. But the reason I do say it is, and bearing in mind, if I hadn't made that Gross move, I'd actually be worse off, because Dunk would have come on and I would have got -1, right? So in hindsight, I'd actually have less points. But doing James to Dunk would have still given me 2 free transfers this week for Game Week 6. And then I'd have the option to either bring in Gross for the next 2 good fixtures, or to just bring Reece James back, sell Gabriel against Man United, and just have Reece James straight back in my team. So the fact that I didn't leave that option open was probably a mistake. I don't necessarily think that selling Reece James on its own was a mistake. The issue is not leaving myself open now to get him back very easily. Bearing in mind it was only illness, and the chances of him being back for the weekend were quite high. We don't know that yet, but I'm pretty sure Tuchel in his press conference, when we see it later, will confirm that he's fine. So I would say, yes, in hindsight, selling Reece James was a mistake. I should have had Andreas Pereira, but I think I should have just done the one move to dunk and then used 2 free transfers next week to maybe get James back and then possibly roll again. I don't think I needed to use 2 free transfers. And the other one was captain in Haaland, but again, I think I'd probably make that decision again. I don't know. Let's see next time he's playing Nottingham Forest what I do. So looking ahead to game week 6, and I'm going to play a back 4. I'm pretty much going to bench Gabriel against Man United away. I don't think that decision is going to change. I know a lot of people think that Arsenal are just going to go to Old Trafford, get the win, and it'll be super easy. And that might be the case, right? But from an FPL point of view, all I care about is whether Gabriel is going to get a clean sheet. And I just don't think that's very likely. Man United are going to be fully up for this game, just like they were against Liverpool at Old Trafford. They are playing better. I know from watching that Leicester game last night, it wasn't pretty at times. You can see patterns of play that Ten Hag is trying to implement from training sessions. It's not necessarily quite clicking right now. I don't think Rashford as a number 9 is great. I think we'd be much better off if Martial was in there, but obviously he's injured at the moment. So we'll see what happens, but I think Man United can score in that game. Whether or not they can win is a different story, but that's all I care about from an FPL point of view is the clean sheet. So I'm probably going to bench Gabriel. Elsewhere, I've still got the double Man City defence. The only realistic way I can get Reece James back, which I'm not completely ruling out, but it's the only way I can do it without a hit, is to sell Cancelo, and I'm just not sure I want to do that this week. I'm sure Reece James will be fine and fit and able to play, and West Ham at home isn't a bad fixture, but I've just got to hope that Bowen and Antonio and co can just wipe out the clean sheet, even with Cucurella in my side, because I'm just worried about what Reece James can do. So I'm probably going to keep Cancelo. Like I said, I haven't completely ruled it out, but I think the better strategy for me is to roll the transfer this week, unless there's something else that I can think of doing, and then next week I can either get rid of Cancelo before Spurs at home for Reece James against Fulham away, or I can maybe even reverse my Gross and Dunk move and just get Reece James back that way. So as I said from last week, I probably made a mistake not leaving my options open this week. Maybe I need to rectify that, roll the transfer and leave the options open for next week instead. So I think I'm probably going to keep Cancelo. I'm definitely going to keep Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to wildcard in game week 9. I will talk about it in videos next week, but I think that's what's going to happen. So if I really want to jump off any of my Liverpool players, that's when I'll do it. I'll probably also offload some of my Arsenal players as well. But Trent Alexander-Arnold against Everton away, and I think it's Wolves at home. Okay, they've got Chelsea in game week 8, and maybe we can use some free transfers ahead of the wild card to sort that out. But there's no way I'm getting rid of him before these games. I think, again, Liverpool defence is probably playing a little bit better than the results they've had so far. Like, if you look at their expected goals conceded, I think they're the 4th best team so far this season. They do have another injury I've just seen as I've started to record this. The Jordan Henderson's out for 5 weeks, and I think the midfielder they've signed from Juventus is also injured at the moment. So that is another midfield issue. That isn't great. But I just look at this team and think Trent Alexander-Arnold out is not a priority. And obviously I've just bought Dunk in. I know they didn't do very well last week. They got their own goal, and obviously the clean sheet was wiped because of that. But Leicester at home, I mean, Leicester were poor against Man United at home. I dread to think what they'll be like against Brighton away. So I think there's a good chance of a clean sheet. It's just not clicking at all with Barnes and Vardy and Maddison. I'm sure at some point, because they're just such good players, it will happen. But I saw something last night. I think Vardy's had 5 shots in 400 minutes or something like that. It's just not working well at all. And I know that Fulham did really well against Brighton, but ultimately Brighton is a decent defence that has played well this season. It is at home, so I'm kind of hopeful about a clean sheet. I guess my one worry for the next few weeks is whether Cucurella is definitely going to play, because Koulibaly is obviously back from suspension. Fofana's in as well. So the back 3 will probably be made up of centre-backs instead of playing someone at right centre-back or left centre-back like Reece James or Cucurella. So it's just whether Chilwell is fit enough yet to get a start. But I think the way things have gone so far, the minutes that Chilwell has had kind of indicates to me that he's not still match fit, and therefore I don't really want to take Cucurella out. If Tuchel says something different in his press conference, I may make a move. If I do, it'll probably be Cucurella to Trippier rather than doubling up on Brighton defence. But I'm just going to keep an eye out on what's said in press conferences, because my preference is just to keep him. So I'm playing 4-4-2 this week. Obviously, I only transferred in Pascal Gross last week, so I've got no real plans to sell him. Possibly in game week 7, like I just discussed, but this week probably not. I've got no money in the bank apart from 0.1 million, only one free transfer. There's not too many options around his price, and I don't want to bin him after just 1 week. They didn't necessarily do great against Fulham, but he is still picking up advanced positions. He's on a lot of set pieces as well. And ultimately, I just see Leicester at home as a really good fixture. Like I said, I watched that game against Man United. If Man United were more switched on and more organised, they could have got more goals last night and probably should have. And I just think the way Brighton have played so far this season, obviously Potter's been at the helm for so long now. Those players know exactly how he wants to play. Danny Welbeck should start as well. That will help because he didn't play, or he did play against Fulham, but he didn't start. So I'm pretty hopeful of returns from him. Elsewhere, Luis Diaz again is probably going to be someone I have until game week 8. I have started looking at maybe going for a little bit of a punt in game week 8 and removing Diaz. A lot of that will depend on what happens this week and next week. It's why I'm keen to roll for game week 7. But he has Everton away this week, then Wolves at home. Perfectly okay to keep him for that. And I don't think he's going to be a must-sell before Chelsea away. But obviously Chelsea have now signed new midfielder. Fofana's in as well. If Kovacic is back by that Liverpool game, Chelsea could do pretty well. And they will make it difficult for Liverpool. I'm not saying Liverpool can't score, but Chelsea can definitely keep the amount of goals down. And I think Diaz in game week 8 transferred out maybe for a Man United player. Let me have one punt before wildcard against Leeds at home. Maybe Anthony, maybe Sancho, maybe even Bruno Fernandes if I've got the money, because he would be on penalties with Ronaldo not getting regular minutes. That could be the play. But for now, Diaz is staying. Martinelli, okay, Man United away I think is maybe a tricky fixture for Gabriel, but I'm not worried about playing my Arsenal attackers against Man United. So he's definitely in. Too good value to get rid of. Interesting conversation around the wildcard, because over three out of 4 game weeks, I think Arsenal play like Spurs, Man City and Chelsea or something like that, maybe Liverpool. So it's difficult fixtures. We might have to get rid of him, even though we've made money on him, even though he's been great. He might have to go. And then it's Salah. And then it's the captaincy conversation. And I've got to be honest, I am itching to switch to Haaland. It's on Salah right now because I know he's going to start and I know he's going to be on the pitch probably for another 90 minutes. I don't really rate Everton that highly either. They have made some interesting transfers. They've signed a bunch of midfielders now. Obviously, they got Tarkowski in defence and Cody. So there's a bit more experience there. But I don't know if they've impressed that much that I'm now afraid of like captaining someone like Salah against them. But I do worry about Liverpool's midfield, especially if now Henderson is out, Thiago's still out. There is something missing there. And if Milner has to play, that is not ideal. I'm kind of torn because Salah's underlying numbers, like I keep saying, are exactly the same as previous seasons, pretty much anyway. Not completely, not 100% the same, but they almost are, right? So he still looks really good. There's no way he's going to keep going games without scoring. But it's just, I don't know whether I'm talking myself into it because I want to captain Haaland. But that midfield just does worry me a little bit about Salah. So if there's any inclination that Haaland starts, I might switch. And also, you shouldn't pick players based on what time they play. But if Salah blanks at half-12 in the half-12 game on Saturday, and I've got to wait till the evening to watch Haaland, that's not going to be fun either. That won't be the reason I make the decision, but I can't help but think about that. So I'm on Salah right now, but I am wavering. The main reason is, I think Haaland is more likely to get rested this week than he was last week. I know everyone is now saying there's no way he gets benched, he's really young and all this kind of stuff, but you just don't know. I think the fact that Pep keeps bringing him off early is definitely helping him with his kind of rest and recovery, but I've still got that slight doubt. So Salah is my that's my only choices, Haaland and Salah. I'm not going to go for anyone else. So it's on Salah right now, but if I get to Saturday 11 o'clock deadline and it's on Haaland, I would not be surprised. And then added in the forwards, it's Haaland and Jesus. And I guess there's not a huge amount more to say about them. I am looking to do everything I can to switch the armband to Haaland. If I think he starts, I will probably switch it. It's just scary how easy he is finding it to score goals. And I am a little bit worried about that Liverpool midfield, especially now with Henderson missing as well. That is not going to help them. And with Haaland, you just look at the goals he scored so far. And don't get me wrong, like Aston Villa away is going to be a little bit more difficult than it was against Nottingham Forest at home. But I'm not sure the fixture difficulty is going to matter too much, right? And yes, it was Forest at home, but that first goal, centre-backs getting nowhere near him, right? He's just too strong, scores. Second goal, some people might say, and I have joked around about this, by the way, that he was a little bit fortunate because the defender tackles Foden, then it falls into Haaland's path. But where is he? Like any good striker, he's in and around that 6-yard area, just like for Alvarez's fourth goal. If Alvarez squares it or if it rebounds, Haaland's there to score. And then the third goal, you're getting nowhere near him, he headers it in. And it's similar against Crystal Palace, right? He's in the right positions, he's always in and around that 6-yard area. And then for the third goal, bearing in mind Crystal Palace are decent, again, he just pins the centre-back away. He's too strong and he scores. And I just don't know how anyone is going to handle him this season, let alone Aston Villa. So if I think he starts, I will switch. But I'm going to leave that decision to the last minute, get some more thoughts, read what kind of Pep Guardiola says and all that good stuff as well. And also what journalists are saying and predicting and things like that. With Jesus, like I said, I've not really got any plans to sell him before wildcard, just like all my other Arsenal attackers. I think playing against Man United away is perfectly okay fixture. Everton at home, decent as well. Brentford away, again, one of those is maybe a little bit tricky, but you're not going to be worried about playing your Arsenal players against them. It's really this period here. Spurs at home, Liverpool at home, and Man City at home. You're probably not going to want two Arsenal attackers, so there will be a conversation to be had about selling him or getting rid of him on wildcard. It depends how you look at it, right? You probably wouldn't want them for 9 and 10, and okay, Man City at home is not great, but if you look at it as a block of fixtures from game weeks 11 to 14, well, okay, they play Man City, but they also play Leeds away, Southampton away, and Nottingham Forest at home. So even if we get rid of them on wildcard, I would probably want a route back to at least one of Martinelli or Jesus, possibly even Saka, because I still don't think he's a completely awful option either. But that's going to be worth thinking about because, yes, as a block of 4 from 9 to 12, not great, but a block of 4 from 11 to 14 is pretty good. So that's worth considering. But for now, Jesus isn't going anywhere. As it stands, Salah is my captain, but that could quite easily switch to Haaland because the man is just scary. Very, very scary. There we go. That is my team selection for Game Week 6. Make sure to give it a like if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. And leave a comment below. Are any of you going to captain someone that isn't Haaland this week? How afraid of you are of him not starting? I think a lot of people at this point just think he's going to start every single game. And you might be correct. And he could absolutely smash it against Villa. It's just that slight doubt in my mind. I don't think Salah is completely awful. But I do want to switch the armband. So leave me a comment below. I'll be back later on with a final thoughts video just for anything that I haven't covered. Also stuff from the press conferences. We'll have quotes from Conte and Pep Guardiola, etc. We can go through them and try and figure out what's going to happen. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Give it a like, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you again soon.